Definitely needed that hike. Snow's just starting to melt enough up in this couple of mountains. I've been trying to find monster buck that I've known for a while. And I'll eventually find him. There's antlers anyways. It's fun to look for the shed antlers laying on the ground. One buck. I haven't been able to get too high yet. I don't want to go much higher because a lot of these antlers are going to be buried in snow yet, possibly. And you don't want to go running all over the mountain and burn yourself out and kill your enthusiasm for later on when the snow's completely gone. But I did manage to find this guy, this old guy. And I've known this guy, I think I've known this guy for 3 years. He hasn't changed much. I got a real good selfie with him a couple years ago. And he wintered just down below me here, and he dropped both these in his bed. Fun little score, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. Shed antlers, or really any antlers of any game, is basically some of the most useful items on the planet. But it's a great excuse to get out in the real world here and sweat it up and stay healthy, right? So, as usual, I'm going to stop and share up some emails. It's actually pretty handy, isn't it, for what I normally do? And then it's an easy thing to combo up with sharing emails from all these people, because I like to stop and have a rest. And what's a half an hour out of my day when I'm up on the mountain, right, doing all this? So let's see what we got. I'll dig a few up, and in the meantime, what I think I might do is, in relation to the video that gentleman sent us with the photograph of the face that was in his window. And I read a handful of the comments just to see what everybody thought about me separating up the emails more, give everybody a little more time and respect they deserve. And caught a handful of people saying, no, they don't look like that. Or somebody said the eyes are too close together or whatever. And I'm like, all right, come on, you guys. I'm going to do this just for you, just for the hell of it, to enhance your common sense. And let's just pretend we'll swap roles. Let's just say the Sasquatch people are us and we are them. And they're trying to describe us to their friends and family. All right? So let's start off with a classic human being photo like this one right here. All right? Now let's just say you ran into that. Meanwhile, every single person in your neighborhood is covered in hair to one extent or another, and some friends are 8 feet tall, some are 10 feet tall, but either way, nobody looks like this, right? Probably scared the crap out of you when you saw that. And then you're going to go try to describe it to friends, and you're going to find out that many of your other friends have seen beings somewhat similar. They think they've probably seen the same thing, but nobody has a picture. All of a sudden, somebody gets a picture, one look in the window. It's this face right here. Or it's this one. Or it's this description right here. Or even this one. Meanwhile, all of these photographs are examples of human beings, modern human beings on the face of the planet today. But imagine swapping that role and trying to describe one of these faces to all of your friends in your neighborhood. And then all of a sudden one of your friends gets a photograph like this right here. Well, everybody else that saw those other humans are going to go, nope, that's not a human, there's not a chance, they don't look like that. Right? So you got to open up your mind, kick your ego aside, and accept that you don't know. And you got to accept that the majority of us just don't know. We don't know much. but there's a lot to learn. I'm pretty sure we can all agree that there is a lot to learn yet, and there's a lot covered up, right? Anyway, there you go. Just want to throw down that example for everybody. All right, here's a recent one I caught this up. Hello, Steve. I just finished watching your video entitled Clear Sasquatch Face Photo, Family Terrorized. Your last story about the gentleman named Ken that witnessed seeing the tracks in the snow made me take notice, as I had experienced with almost the same reaction. Let me start by saying this. I'm 60 years old. I spent a lot of time in the woods hunting deer, elk, turkey, and coyotes. I've always been an open-minded person on the subject of Sasquatch/Bigfoot with a portion of skepticism, and seeing is believing attitude, until the day I came across very fresh tracks. I've had three other experiences in the woods while hunting that I can't explain, but this one sealed it for me personally. I was elk hunting with a friend, I won't use his name, near Trout Lake, Washington on the flanks of Mount Adams in November 2018. My friend and I drove to the end of a logging spur road on state land this particular afternoon. About a quarter mile in, the road came to an end. We turned around and were trying to decide if we wanted to hunt the area. I told my friend that I wanted to hike to the top of the ridge to the east. He said go ahead. He would stay in the truck and catch a nap, so up I went. I wasn't too far to the top, maybe 500 yards. As I approached the top, there was a large fir tree by itself in a logged-off area, a good place to stop and scan the area for elk sign. I unslung my .338 and leaned up against the tree, and as I did, there on the ground was a track, clear, distinct, and very fresh. It was clearly a bare, human-like right foot with 5 toes. I examined it for some time. The print made an impression, approximately 5/8 of an inch into the earth. I tried stomping my foot to see if I could make that deep of an impression, but no way. The ground was too hard. The ground was fractured with crisp, defined edges where this thing stepped, and the visible soil was still moist. All the small vegetation in the print was smashed flat, like it had been driven over by a steamroller. After some time of checking this out, I noticed directly behind the first print, about 4 feet away, was the outline of another bare foot, the left foot with toes, but not as distinct as the first track. These were the only visible tracks. After studying these tracks for a few more minutes, I decided to cut some sticks to measure them later at home. The right foot was 15¼ inches long and 7½ inches wide. This is where the experience is like Ken's. I just walked away. No feelings of excitement or dread, just walked away. When I got back to my truck, I told my friend what I had found. Now, he was open-minded about the subject of Sasquatch, but he didn't seem too interested and didn't feel like going to check it out. The only thing he asked was, "Were you scared?" I said, "No, I wasn't scared, excited or scared. I hadn't experienced any emotion, just a matter of fact, there it is." He never said another word about it. I was thinking about it a while back. Why didn't I mark the spot? Why didn't I take the picture? Why didn't I feel anything? Why didn't my friend want to check it out for himself? We just left. Was this being watching me? Was it impressing on my mind to just move along and not go back? Then I heard of Ken's experience. The only thing it did do is solidify in my mind these things are real. I've always thought if these things are real, I wanted to see one. After that experience, I don't think I want to become a member of the Club of No Return. However, I've heard howls I couldn't identify, rock knocking, and I've seen violent tree shaking, all while hunting over the years. Were these signs pointing to their being nearby telling me, you know we are real and we are here? On another note, I live in the same area where the young man wrote to you about his Halloween 2020 experience, where he was approached by the 3 gray beings while hunting at Yacolt Burn, Southwest Washington. I've hunted this area and had strange experiences there over the years, and I always get a creepy feeling in the burn. I know that young man wants to stay anonymous, but I would love to talk to him and share my experiences in that area. Sorry for the long email, Steve, and thank you for giving people a safe place to get the stories out. Kevin Wentz. P.S. My condolences on losing Mr. Macaroni. I completely understand the connection you had with him. Horses and dogs are better judges of character than a lot of people. All right, thanks, Kevin. I appreciate that, man. And, yeah, finding the tracks. I've found tracks a few times now, but it was after I'd already seen one of these things, 2 of them, and heard them. So the finding tracks don't have too much of an impact on me now. But it is amazing how we react, isn't it? It's amazing how each individual one of us reacts to what happens. Hear the helicopter? Isn't it amazing? The helicopter traffic in the sea to sky area of British Columbia, it is unfrickin' believable. I can't throw down the camera for what? What's the average time? 10 minutes? 7 minutes, and I got a helicopter over top? It's crazy. Two men who are honest and hardworking, which I have the utmost respect for. You can share my first name, but please leave out my last name, as I work for the Department of Veteran Affairs, and I don't want my co-workers to think I'm crazier than they already know. Just joking. My two encounters may be insignificant, especially when compared to the others I've thought about sharing this with you and your listeners for quite a while. I grew up and have lived in southwest Wisconsin my whole life. Beside my time in the Army, I grew up in a family of outdoorsmen who love hunting, trapping, mushroom, ginseng hunting, camping, and fishing. We live on the edge of a small town with nothing but woods and beautiful hills out of the driftless region of southwest Wisconsin behind the house. I spent a lot of time in the woods, hiking, playing in the creek, making forts, and just goofing around as a kid. When I was 11, I was snow sledding by myself on the hill right behind our house. I had a usual starting point and would make out the same run over and over. This time, I decided to start a little higher on the hill, where the hill flattened out at the top. As I was getting my sled ready, I noticed some tracks, and what I realized were human-like footprints in the snow. I thought it was weird because only myself or one or two of my friends ever went up there. As I looked at these tracks, I compared them to my feet at the time. These tracks were twice as wide and twice as long as my winter boot. The tracks went up this steep embankment and into the woods. I did not follow them, as the embankment they seemed to traverse is pretty steep. Kind of interesting, and I knew about Bigfoot at the time, but I thought I'd only lived in the Pacific Northwest. About 4 years later, on a summer break, I was in the woods playing around. I loved making lean-tos. I came across what I thought was a fort that maybe some teenagers had started abandoned. But when I came across your channel and learned about tree structures, my stomach dropped, as I'm fairly confident that this is what I found. I never would have connected this to Sasquatch without the information I've learned on your channel. I never saw any other people in those woods the entire time I was growing up, besides my friends, if one or two were over at the house playing and we decided to go into the woods. The structure was a skinny pine tree that had been bent over and tucked under a higher branch of an oak tree, forming an arch. One side was a bunch of shrubs and vines that had been woven together to create a wall. Now, these weren't just naturally grown this way. Someone had to have taken the time to place them and weave them together. The floor was simply dirt, but had been patted down to make a smooth surface. In my aloofness, being 15, I thought, wow, what luck. I found a fort someone started. I ran home about a mile and grabbed a hammer and handsaw, some nails, and a few boards, came back to the fort and started making improvements, adding lean-to type wall to one side and made a ceiling with my boards and some other branches I cut down. Satisfied with the day's work, I went home as it was getting towards supper time, and my mom would have my ass if I was late. The next day I went out to hang out in my new fort, and I was shocked with what I found. All my additions were taken off. The boards I had nailed in were pulled off and stacked in a neat pile, with the nails in a pile on top of the board. Wow. The ceiling had lean-to wall branches were also piled in a neat, organized fashion. I thought maybe some older teenagers had been there overnight, possibly. Really, I had no answer to who or what took the boards down, but I went into the center of the structure. I got this crazy feeling like I was at somebody's house when they weren't home. It wasn't a feeling of dread or fear, just an uneasy feeling like I shouldn't be there. I don't want to take up any more of your time. I know you're a very busy man. I truly appreciate what you're doing. Be safe and keep fighting a good fight, Andrew. Wow, Andrew. That is the first time I've read something like that. And, wow. What do you say to that one? All I got to say is, wow. That's a pretty impressive reaction from both parts, from you and them, right? Man, I don't know what's going on with my voice. Get a bit of a frog in my throat, and I'm getting chilly because I'm actually quite sweaty. Ugh. It's not the warmest place on the planet yet, obviously with the snow around. But it sure was kind of them to make sure you were safe, right? And they didn't violate you in any way or expose themselves to you to scare the shit out of you. They just politely let you know that that was their fort. That's pretty amazing, man. That's I really like reading that. Thanks for sending that in. Absolutely appreciate it. Crazy. Steve, thanks for sharing Edgar's information. I've watched all your videos about the subject. My own experiences started when I was a child in the 1960s and continued in various number and frequency to this day. It is impossible to relate these things to those without any reference point in their own lives to base them on. I've written them down for my grandchildren to read after I'm gone, but lately I've begun to reveal some of the events to my family. They have listened but have no way to process what I told them. Believing, processing, and understanding go into making wisdom. As you have said, these beings outclass us in every way. In all of these instances where, like Edgar, clothing is removed or left off, turned inside out and backward and then put back on, in a show of contempt, these beings are not stupid. They do not make grooming or dressing errors. To remove the footwear of your enemy is to humble them or humiliate them. It shows the greatest disrespect for their well-being. It is similar in our culture to putting the head of your enemy on a pole at the edge of your territory. Such things are done for a message. They are not us, and we are not them. Lots of things have similar DNA, but nothing are alike. All the best to you and family. I hope you find your answer. Gary Reed, Merced, California. Thanks, Jerry. Definitely another angle to come at it, isn't it? I wouldn't have thought of that one myself. But at the round table of knowledge, every word counts. Maybe somebody else will add in on that, or maybe that'll help somebody else's brain start pumping in the right direction. You never know. Thanks for sending that in. Steve, hello again. Watched your video regarding Edgar's story this morning, and while you're reading it, I was seeing everything that Edgar was telling you in my mind. As you were reading that part about him seeing the Sasquatch, I was getting the feeling from the Sasquatch that he had been betrayed and was being abandoned there. I also felt he was trying to get back into whatever craft or vehicle he had dropped him off there, and that there were others close to him still in the craft. I feel the Sasquatch was just another victim in this case. Most of the people commenting on your video seem to agree that Edgar was abducted by some unknown entities and traveled on whatever craft they were in around the world. Maybe several times in that short period of time, and dropped back off close to where he had started. Those emails seem to indicate that, and the GPS pings from his phone would have confirmed. I don't know much about the UFO phenomenon, having had 2 sightings what at the time was UFOs to me, and even have some lost time associated with the first one when I was 8. I reached out with my mind trying to contact that Sasquatch in Wales, and had a little bit of success. He at the time was still there and confused because he is not from there and not familiar with his surroundings. While doing this, I started getting very serious migraine and saw a blurry image of some type of being with a very large head that looked a lot like most of the aliens that a lot of people have described, except for this one was a glowing yellow-orange color. I've tried to reach out again, it seems to be blocked. I was thinking just before typing this of 2 different scenarios. 1, the Sasquatch was being dropped off there, and whatever beings were dropping him off did not know that Edgar was there until the Sasquatch realized that Edgar was watching him and reacted, alerting the beings in the craft to his presence, and they took him because of what they saw in his mind. 2, that Edgar was already targeted, and the Sasquatch's appearance was a distraction. This brought some questions. Why are these alien beings moving these Sasquatch all over the world? Is it to increase the number of sightings? Is it an experiment to test their abilities to adapt or to test their psychic abilities to contact others of their kind at a distance? Just more questions. The fact that they are being seen at all of these highly secured installations is interesting to say the least. This is in response to a previous video, the one where the guy was explaining the mind speak. I agree with everything you said, except for when he said not to trust anyone who claims to have conversations with him in perfect English. Though they use different terms to describe certain things, I have had conversations with, or in a few instances, was kind of eavesdropping on their conversations with each other, where I was hearing it in perfect English. I've also heard some that use a more broken style of talking like he described. Some of them do not seem to have the ability or refuse to use it with me. Last thing is that you were being watched while you were reading Edgar's email. My last email to you, I told you about seeing in my mind a Sasquatch coming up while you were filming the day you read my first email about infrasound thought energy, and about reaching out to one nearest to you named Toma. This was a different one watching you. Felt he was very curious but intimidated by your attitude while you're reading. They seemed to be impressed by your strength of character. Once again, thanks for what you do. Dennis Severns. P.S. I will consider typing up all of my Sasquatch encounters and sending them in sometime. They just don't seem that important right now. Okay, Dennis, thanks for sending that in, man. And obviously, it wouldn't matter who you were, what you know, or what you've experienced, especially if you've experienced communicating with these with these beings, which I've had a lot of people telling me that they communicate with these people. And so far, I've put it out there, I've asked them simple questions. I've asked the people who claim to speak directly to these beings, said, hey man, if you do, ask them if they would share with us exactly who is hunting them nonstop and killing them. And to date, I believe I've had a direct, flat-out answer. Give it to me. It's funny, that it's just one thing that helps this be so confusing to me is, like if you listen to Mike Patterson's Ontario Sasquatch Ontario. Sorry, Mike, if I got that one wrong. I've talked to Mike many times. Straight up good guy, and very fortunate and very, very involved in what he's got going on where he lives, and he's recorded them speaking. And same as Ron Moorhead recording them speaking too. But what surprises me is it seems like that these beings really struggle to verbally communicate. It's like it's a struggle. It's not smooth. It's not smooth like telling you what the weather's like today. And I find that is somewhat odd to me because on average, they outclass us so fiercely in every aspect of our existence, it's ridiculous. So you would think that speech would be absolutely smooth and easy, right? I mean, the incredible things they do, which is smooth and easy, well, it just doesn't make sense that they can't just speak smooth, crisp, and clearly, and engage in a solid conversation. All right? So many questions, so many answers for the inquisitive mind. But anyways, Dennis, thanks for sending that in, and as I'm sure it would be easy for you to forecast. Your average human being listening to your emails are gonna go, yeah, right, dude, give me a break, right? But almost probably 99.9% of all the factors that come along with this topic create that reaction out of the majority of the human herd anyway. So who cares? Who cares about the common reaction? What I care about is getting as much information from as many people as I can. That's what I'm about. We're doing it, right? Wow, Steve, I just started watching videos. I'm so relieved that so many people have shared their truths with you and all the viewers. It's such a relief to know that I've not been going crazy. I was honestly beginning to wonder if I was suffering from paranoia, schizophrenia. Here's my experience. So from Blue River, Oregon, 2017, my husband and I were staying on my uncle's property in a travel trailer. That night during the summer, we'd barbecue outside, and I would use the side burner to boil my water for tea. One night while outside alone, I was experiencing eerie feelings of being watched and could hear movement on the mountain above the property. I shrugged it off as raccoons or deer, etc. As I waited for the tea kettle to boil, a rock was thrown and it slammed against the side of the travel trailer, causing me to scream out loud. At that moment, I suspected my husband was trying to scare me. I pulled my cell out of my pocket and called my husband. When he answered, I asked if he was outside messing with me. He sounded confused and said, "No, I'm in the main house playing cards with Aunt Teresa." I felt all the blood drain away from my body. I hung up the phone and ran as fast as I could to their house. I was wearing flip-flops, or slides, and underestimated the depth and height of the stairs and slammed my left foot on the concrete steps. At that moment, I was no longer scared, but angry. I shattered my foot like a twig. I made excuses for the events of that night and never mentioned it again. A few weeks later, my husband, my cat, and I were out in the trailer in bed when my cat started hissing and growling at the covered window. My husband and I looked at each other in bewilderment because our cat never acted so strange. A few seconds later, there was suddenly 3 knocks on my side of the trailer back by the bedroom. I responded by pulling back the curtain, only to see a hairy head, dark blonde in color, running, ducking past the window. I sprung out of the bed, flung open the door, and ran outside to see nobody and nothing. So scary and strange. Having my husband there to witness this comforted me more. I wasn't hearing and seeing things. We never saw anything after that, but still experienced weird things. My cat would periodically climb on the roof of the main house, and I couldn't coax him down. My cat was terrified. I went and snapped a few pics with my phone, and there was a picture of a huge man sitting on a branch midway up the tree. Well, just want to contribute that to the cause. # not alone. Well, that sounds interesting. I guess, now that you teased 4 million people with you made mention that you took a picture of a huge man sitting on a branch and you never included the photo. Don't be surprised if that causes major revolt in the comment section below, right? Obviously, everybody knows my stance on photographs. Take them or leave them, doesn't matter to me. I've seen the things, I know they're alive. But there's a lot of people out there that would do anything to see photographs. So if you still have that photo and you want to mail it in and share it with everybody, feel free. And thank you for sending that in. It's kind of weird how the pets, I always want to know why. I wonder what it is the dogs, the animals, the cats know, and the children. I want to know what it is they know about these beings right off the word go, and why it is 99.99% terror and fright. I want to know why. But I want to know why the safe way. I don't know why. I don't want to know why by first-hand experience. Finding out why the animals and children are deathly terrified of these things right off the word go. But anyway, I'm going to go hike a little more, I think. Got some rock bluffs around the corner here, facing to the southeast, and I'm going to go see if maybe there might be a couple antlers laying around for me to find. And get my blood pumping again. And I might stop and pull off some more email shares before I go home again, just to get ahead of the game. Believe me, I'd rather be doing this outside and sharing emails than doing other things, that's for sure. Right now, this time of year.